One of the things that I'm the most excited about, I think, in terms of stepping in to guide some of these stories is an initiative that Pei-Hwan and I like to call the Way of the Feminine Warrior.
So a lot of people are hurting in the industry right now. There's a lot of stuff going on with artists and entrepreneurs. And I get on a weekly call with this rebel unit, and Bella gives me hope.
It's a really exciting time to be telling stories for the female gaze, for the female hero.
Part of the decision-making process here is that we have a moral and ethical obligation to create stories out there that do something more than just help people escape.
My name is Kevin Winston. I'm with Digital LA. Super excited to moderate this panel today. We are basically going to be leapfrogging off of some of the discussion points which we have just been discussed in the keynote. So I'll go ahead and start off with the first question here today, and we will then do some Q&A with the audience. Sounds good? Yeah. All right, perfect. All right, so first question, tell me how you are involved with the amazing things that Immortal Studios is doing, paving the way and creating a new form of telling stories.
I guess I'll go first. Oh, is this on? Yeah, okay. I am managing a beautiful storyverse of incredible stories based on Pei-Hwan's father's incredible work, and doing so alongside my fellow teammates.
So I'm basically a junior creative producer here at Immortal Studios, and one of my biggest roles is being an ambassador for Gen Z and even Gen Alpha and younger generations, to have our voices really heard in the future of our company, and really currently pushing for bringing regenerative activism into our future media projects.
Awesome, it inspires me. I have been helping studios and networks, IP libraries, talent, and others tell their stories across screens and platforms for about 2 decades. And that process has been given many different words: cross-media, transmedia, multi-platform, multimodal. But
what's your favorite one, though?
I think the audience will help us figure out a better word for it tonight, because that's how fast it's moving. But I think most importantly is to meet the group formerly known as audience, which is increasingly now participating and engaging and co-creating with us, is to meet them wherever they're at. And I think that's a really exciting aspect of what Immortal's doing.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit more about how Immortal Studios works for the audience, just so they understand how you're disrupting things and taking advantage of these new tools?
Sure. Well, first of all, maybe I'll describe what Immortal is. We are a multi-platform entertainment studio. We're focused on 3 primary verticals, which is comic books or graphic novels, graphical short-form storytelling, games, as well as film and television. And we're delivering product in all 3 sectors, and we're looking for synergies across the board. We're doing it within one genre of the martial fantasy genre, which is now trending as the most popular segment within the anime sector. So we're very, very focused on being the face of the new generation of global pop culture, especially as it relates to heroes and heroism.
And you have a background in that genre as well, right?
I do. I was kind of born into the genre. My father was one of the top creators, so I was kind of born into the arms of Kung Fu masters.
Who's your favorite?
I have to. Well, I'm biased. I would say my father was my favorite.
Okay, makes sense.
He was actually my mentor. He kind of also I would say all the things that really have to do with the Shaolin Temple, which is the birthplace of Kung Fu. Those are some of my favorites.
So there are an incredible wealth of stories within the various Asian cultures about Kung Fu masters. How do you pick which ones to bring into your IP and work with them and help develop stories based on them, games, social media platforms? How do you pick which ones you want to create, or do you create new ones with the same vibes and aesthetic as the traditional ones?
All of the above. All of the above. I think what the new technology is enabling us, I love the idea of being exponential. Of course, we're also one of the biggest IP owners in this space, so we literally have thousands of characters and proven storylines. So we're kind of we're already starting by standing on the shoulder of giants. But I think the audience is always is very, very smart. So we're experimenting with engaging audiences. And by choosing graphic novels as kind of a minimum viable product, we call it the MVP engine that Hollywood's never had. So we're actually solving for the development problem that we're talking about. So as a former movie producer, I have an inherent trust in my own taste, and I also have surrounded myself with extraordinary team members. So first of all, we want to go to the market with things that pass our own muster, things that we're excited about. But just because we have a basic idea that we're excited about doesn't mean we have everything else figured out. So through a number of ways, we engage with fans, and we actually let them tell us what they're excited about and why, and we want to know. And then we also offer them the chance to get involved. So it's through a dynamic mechanism we call it MVPing, so that we see what floats to the top. And first of all, I think every story deserves to be told. If there is some real, they're there. But whether that deserves to be for further investment and extension in other places, well, that's kind of a financial decision.
I used to work at 2 movie studios, and we always like to name drop our IPs in the library, whether we're on a conference call or at a party. So what are your top IPs that people might have heard about before?
Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman, which is, for those the diehard geeks out here, this is the OG in the cultivation Shensha with the supernatural hero genre, which is the #1 gaming category in Asia. So this is the OG IP that we actually got our company name from. So this is kind of the spine of the Storyverse. Assassin G, which is one of the biggest IPs to come out of China, was one of my father's original works. It's been made into television 4 times, twice in China, once in Hong Kong, once in Taiwan. And this is going to be a first feature film. It's already a graphic novel. I also love The Adept. We have 4 Star Hero titles that are now being actively developed for transmedia exploitation.
Can you describe some of the story development that you use and the techniques used to help bring these stories to life?
Absolutely. I'm coming in at a really fun time, actually, because a lot of the stories have already gone through the sort of beginning of their development phase. So many of the books exist already. So I get to play around with like worlds that were sort of already made for me to step into and live in. One of the things that I'm the most excited about, I think, in terms of stepping in to guide some of these stories is an initiative that Pei-Hwan and I like to call the Way of the Feminine Warrior. As he mentioned, I come from a background of developing stories for, I like to say for women, but really for everyone. And when you can take genres like these, martial heroes, I'm work in comics specifically in my functions at Immortal. It's a really exciting time to be telling stories for the female gaze, for the female hero. Comics have such a massive impact. I don't even think that needs to be said. We see the impact of comics everywhere, and comics started as a way to speak about social injustices and to inspire people. And so being able to tell really powerful, exciting, full stories about beautiful, strong, flawed women it couldn't be more exciting. So that's definitely one of my favorite things to bring to this and to work with and play with and be a part of.
Cool. So stories with strong women.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Excellent. Cool.
By the way, more than half of our characters are led by women. As a girl father, as a girl dad.
Nice.
Yeah, something that's super important for us.
Nice. And what are the most popular female characters?
Oh, definitely Assassin G, but also Amy, the Adept. I think those are 2 competing ladies, but my personal favorite is Ying Ying from Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman. I won't give away too much. You should definitely read these books. They're incredible. But it would be too hard to choose a favorite.
Bella, can you talk about social media? So you're helping out Immortal Studios reach the Gen Z audience and making sure that what they're interested in is reflected, and just knowing about the new titles. Can you tell us how you do that?
Yeah, I talked about a little bit in my introduction about regenerative activism. A big thing within my generation that I've noticed is that half of us are really have really embraced the we're all doomed, like there's nothing we can do. But then the other half of us have really embraced like what we can do and strive to move forward and really look for that within the media that we're engaging in. And so that's one thing that I'm trying to bring in and help like bring some of the ideas
You're more than trying, you've done it.
that I'm bringing in. And
Can you give an example of a title that you worked on or a story that you worked on?
for titles, the only one that I personally have worked on is restructuring or formatting the AI translation of the original Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman that Pei-Hwan's father wrote, which was really amazing. But the way that I've implemented it into, or the way that something that I pitched to implement it into our company is I pitched an idea for the Young Immortal Storyverse, which is to bring in a younger storyteller and to allow them to tell us personally. So it would be a storyverse created on platforms that they can reach, and it would be all stories created by them for us to read and for everybody
So
else
the
to
stories
read.
are created by your followers?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So how does that work? Do you like, hey, who should the lead be? And people give comments. What should the storyline be? Like, how does that work? How do you engage them? Because it's very exciting to have your audience help tell you the stories.
Yeah.
This is official canon, by the way. Things that float to the top become part of the canon.
Yeah, so basically some of the like baseline things that we are hoping to receive with these stories is just to make sure that it's wuxia and to really have their ideas like within the stories and like for them to tell us. Yeah, sorry. I'm just gonna ask to move on
You're
for
doing
a
great.
minute.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
And then going on to for you, William, how do you figure out which storylines or characters or titles would be good for multi-platform, say, to go to a game? Like, you don't want to build a game out of everything because not everything necessarily relates to a game. And then what kind of game? Is it a mobile game? Is it a shooter game? Like, how do you figure out what stories and what platforms they should live on that make sense for the medium?
Super insightful question, as
Well,
usual.
thank you.
And nice job coordinating with the couch.
My favorite color is red, so I was like, got the red couch, sweet.
I mean, here's the thing. If we zoom out for a second, I spent a lot of years helping big studios make genre, intellectual property, IP, that I would say would be leaning dystopian in the sci-fi realm. And I have a 16-year-old who I'd like to be able to look in the eyes and say, we're going to leave this place better than we found it. So a lot of people are hurting in the industry right now. There's a lot of stuff going on with artists and entrepreneurs. And I get on a weekly call with this rebel unit, and Bella gives me hope. Her authenticity, the way that she wants to reach out to hearts and actually do something more than create escapist entertainment, but create something that has impact beyond it, which speaks back to the legacy of the IP library and Peter's father. So I wanted to zoom out for a second because I think it's super important that we think about how we want to spend our time. I'm an urgent optimist. There's a lot of shit going down right now. And I would say, do you want to spend your time creating another first-person shooter or a competition reality show? Or I'm not judging any of these things. I've worked on some of them. Or do you want to spend your time expressing a story world that actually allows creators from all over the world that might be alone and not have access to a mythology or a story world to help to add to it and create into it and customize it and personalize it and share it with their friends and create community. So I would say in the zoom out answer, that's to me the why and the important aspect of what we're doing.
Cool. So a traditional media person in LA would say, okay, I see Immortal Studios, you do stories about martial arts, I want to make a kung fu fighting game, something like Mortal Kombat, but on steroids, or something crazy like that. What's your approach to developing games? Is it more community-based? Is it not necessarily a fighting? How would you classify the games?
I'll do a part one, then I want to hand it back to Peter and Kesu and all. That's Kelly's nickname. Has anybody heard the word protopian? That word? It's sort of, in some ways, it's starting to bubble up. There's lots of buzzwords out there, but it's sort of the antidote to dystopian fiction. So I think part of the decision-making process here is that we have a moral and ethical obligation to create stories out there that do something more than just help people escape. And so I would say, I'm going to hand it back to Peter, Peiwan, but I would say
That's my hero name.
Yeah, it's the games that allow that to happen that are creating maybe prototypes for better worlds in real life.
So thank you for that, William. By the way, you helped me remember the thing that I didn't pop into my mind, which was just this acknowledgement, and I'm not running around with my hair on fire. So when I say this, I hope you take it in context, because I'm joyfully, very happily sharing this, but our planet is failing. The world as we know it is failing. And I do predict very, very difficult times ahead for people who live on this planet. And it's a reality. So I think any kind of plan making about the future being exactly the way it's been, I don't think that's going to be true. So I think there is a moral responsibility for storytellers, because I do believe that the vehicle of story that knows no boundaries, doesn't have a political affiliation, has no agenda except to share its presence and its truth with you, has the ability to be the front lines of engaging the global masses in a different kind of conversation, in a human conversation, in a conversation of consciousness, of abundance, of love, of peace. And that we may very well be the last game in town. So this sense of urgency is joyfully driven forward by us. So I'm a big advocate. We actually have launched an initiative inside Immortal called the Transformational Media Lab. I've actually gone to places like MIT Media Lab, and I've curated a bunch of technologies and story metaphors that actually help people become the best version of themselves. We call that awakening the hero in everybody. So when we sit down to tell a story, we think about the archetype. We think about the pain points. We think about the trauma or aspects of the self that we are trying to help people get over. So we're very, very specific. We're very targeted. The Adept is really intended for young women, coming into their own powers. Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman is about how do you become the person that you're capable of, and how you can get beyond it. So this is like the real superhero. This is the real Jedi tricks. Now, as a Kung Fu practitioner, by the way, Kung Fu, according to the Shaolin Temple that I'm a part of, begins with meditation. So it is really injecting all of those technologies, all of those ideas and storytelling in a multimedia format, of which the story is kind of the Trojan horse for, if you will.
Amazing. Well, thank you for working to give us stories that actually help uplift, empower, and develop community and heal.
That's the first
instead
thing.
of just like, what's going to make some money at the box office. So, thank you. Next question is, this would not be a investment week panel during Tech Week without asking about AI. So do you use AI in the development of your stories in your company, whether it's Gen AI or other forms of AI, to either help tell your stories or do any design work? A lot of AI filmmakers use AI for concept work, for brainstorming, for ideas, and then pay humans, to actually finish it. And then other people use AI for things like vision AI or other forms of AI other than Gen AI. How do you all use AI?
Well, we have a goal to be at the front lines of this revolution. We're doing a number of things. First of all, I wish our CTO was able to be here, because he would be able to talk much more cogently about the nuts and bolts of the tools and our approach. But I'm happy to share that we have partnered with SingularityNet, one of the biggest players in AGI, that we are actually right now training, I would say, probably the most ambitious large language model in the mainstream entertainment world today. We're starting our training with our own data sets of all our own creations, our characters, beginning with my father's library that has been minted as the Xiaoyi Wuxia Library at my alma mater, UCLA. So we're starting with content that's part of my own lineage and also the lineage of 60% of the population. This is their heroic culture. So we're starting with training a system that's going to be able to reflect back to us the richness of all of our media assets and holdings and iterations that they can enjoy in different platforms, whether it's visual, games, short form. So I predict we're expect to launch that during South by Southwest this year. So we're very, very close to completing this great work.
Exciting. So all the data is your own.
All the
and
data
you
is
have
our
your
own.
permission to use it because it's your own.
It's our own. There's nothing artificial about it. Everything. It was really touching. I decided to download a lot of the data myself, and I stopped at 13 million characters. 13 million characters that I believe has within it every story ramification possible to the genre and beyond. And of course, we have a whole modern layer now then being able to translate that into visual storytelling with, again, design influences and characters that we have hired human artists to create. So again, I'm a big believer in the Centaur model, which is switched on humans and creators with the best technology collaborating together. I think this is really what we're going for.
Very thoughtful. Thank you. Bella, can you tell us Snapchat, Instagram, or TikTok? Which one gets the most engagement and why?
For me, it would be Instagram because people kind of make fun of it because it gets the back end of everything from all the different social media platforms, but that's why I really love it. I kind of don't have to keep up with every single platform. But I know TikTok and Twitter are kind of like at the forefront right now.
Which aspects of Instagram? Is it reels, stories, posts, commenting on everybody's comments so it ups the algorithm?
All of it, really. I guess reels are really what are bringing in the most views out of all the aspects.
Cool. If you're not doing a reel every day or so and you're a content creator, you're behind. Make sure you do that. So I'm going to go into the audience. I'm going to go into the audience for questions. Who has questions? Let's try this again. Who has questions in the audience?
We'll take complaints.
I am going to jump off stage and hopefully be able to get back on stage to do this Oprah style. All right, can you stand up and say your name and your question?
Sure. Phil Larman. Where are we at in terms of volumetric video and taking it into like a more immersive experiences? From my experience, it's been incredibly expensive when we look at doing anything live. Just wondering if you guys are playing in that space at all.
Well, first of all, we did have a live experience this last November. We actually partnered with the birthplace of Kung Fu, the Shaolin Temple. All the monks and the top Kung Fu martial artists today shared the stage with us. So we had I would say history making. The event was called Immortal Shaolin, the past, present, future of Kung Fu with the Shaolin Temple and Immortal. So that was our experiment in the live space. We do have a number of live experiences planned for major fan conventions around the world. Now, it's an extension of this kind of multi-platform universe. We're not going to specifically create something for live, but since we're already going to have so many different characters and stories and visualizations in different formats, that's going to extend very, very well into live. So our view is that it's multi-platform. It's the same set of eyeballs that have now been artificially separated by platforms. Now we're going to unite them, and live is really something that's critical, but it's not going to be the only thing. I think by living in other places, we're going to be able to bring a lot more gravitas to the live experience, if you will.
We have a question from Dylan in the back in the red Stanford shirt.
I love it, Kevin. You're working it. You're killing this.
I'm all over the place in real life too.
Love it.
I saw the red Stanford shirt. I love red. Had to come over, ask your question. Also, William has a Stanford cap on. Go ahead.
We're theoretical mathematicians, so I have a question for you guys. It's particularly around entertainment, about the changing business model itself, as far as revenue models go, because of artificial intelligence and its ability to very rapidly and nearly accurately emulate styles. And I know this because I built AIs for a number of Fortune 50 companies. So the point being is that if it's so simple now for me to replicate your style, how are we going to provide cryptographic, I guess you would say, provenance of media and assets to know that they're originally from an original artist? And this has been a problem before. Only big companies could afford DRM. And now today, we need to be able to enable DRM for solo artists and sovereign artists. Have you guys been working and doing anything in that space yet?
And Dylan, have you done any voiceover work?
Right? I was thinking the same thing.
Actually, no.
They might hire you now.
No, great question. Well, there are companies out there solving for it, but I don't like to get up on a stage and start promoting a bunch of companies. I think I would say part of our mission is to protect, preserve, and extend the legacy of human-centered storytelling and content creation, and then look at how we use AI to maybe extend our story worlds through world building and other things, but do it ethically and cleanly. And the companies that are solving for it, not mentioning names, range from IP blockchain stuff to direct-to-studio watermarking and other things. I think what's most important is that we acknowledge together both the creative community and the traditional media community that it's important to value artist creations and that fair use training every large language model in the world on copyrighted material is not sustainable. But if you want to talk afterwards, I'd be happy to tell you specifically.
That sounds great because we only have 3 minutes left. Okay. Can we have a question here? Short question, short answer, last question.
Hello, my name is George, and I attend USC. But talking about transmedia and going for graphic novels, films, or just kind of the cross-section, I think there's a lot of parallels. I think with what you're doing with what Warhammer 40K is doing, right, with them having the entire breadth at this point besides a live action film, right? So I guess I just wanted to ask if their approach is something you're emulating or if there's also or any inspiration and, that's the question.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of it.
Warhammer has a cross-multimedia approach with films, video games, and other transmedia. So are you duplicating or emulating or inspired by the Warhammer approach?
I'm not really familiar with them, so I can't really comment, but I do believe this is the wave of the future. There's so many derivations that are possible. You could literally call your own playbook. So that's kind of our basic approach. I mean, we're actively building and where media has never gone before. So I don't think we've actually in our lifetime seen a real positive soup to nuts transmedia execution yet.
So
at least on the scale that we're talking
we
about.
can figure this out. I'm getting the signal that is the end of our time here. So without further ado, let's give our panelists a big round of applause for hanging out with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.